Bobby. I'm here tonight to talk about Common Core. How many of you know what Common Core is? Do you like Common Core?
Nope.
So, first I want to start off with the vocabulary of Common Core, just to kind of get everybody on the same page, that way we all know what everything kind of stands for. And we have Barbara Haney to thank for this. She's a PhD professor out in Anchorage, Alaska. And she has done a lot of research. If there's something that I don't know, find her on Facebook, follow her. She's the woman. She's the one that I've learned all of my stuff from. We have a thing called a Memorandum of Understanding. And this is the agreement between our state and the regional governing body. In the case of the Common Core curriculum, it is either a Smarter Balanced Assessment, which is known as SBAC, or a Partnership for Assessment Readiness or College and Career Ready Standards, also known as PARC. It dictates the level of involvement in each state, the membership category, the obligations of the state, and the terms through which the state can leave or exit the program. There are memorandums of understandings between the consortia, fiscal agents, and the U.S. Department of Education. There are also memorandums of understanding between the state members and the consortia, and there is also an understanding between the consultants and the Department of Education. Your fiscal agent, that's the state that doles out the money and keeps track of all the grants. For SBAC, which we're not part of, that's more of your northeast and your northwest. The fiscal agent for that state is Washington. For PARC, it is the state of Florida, and we are a part of PARC. The consultant, that's the person who implements, or the state who implements the program across the state, because the state of Washington cannot obviously operate in another state. The consultant is used to go across state lines and boundaries. For SBAC, that is West Ed, and for PARC, that is Achieve. The primary personalities are concealed because they are controversial. So the actual person in charge is usually a well-known pencil pusher who is philosophically aligned with the primary writer. For SBAC, the primary writer is Linda Darling Hammond, and for Achieve, it is William Ayers. Now, for your consortia, that is a group of states that have formed a collective group. There are two primary consortia in Common Core. And again, that's your SBAC and your PARC. The Freedom of Information Act. This is important. If I don't tell you anything else tonight, make sure you get online and you research your Freedom of Information Act, because this is where you have the right to know everything that your child is doing in school. And if they tell you no, this is where you can say, okay, then you will be hearing from my lawyer, because the Freedom of Information Act says that you do not have the right to withhold this evidence from me. This law enables citizens to request documents from the government. The key is to know there is a document for which a request can be made. Now, have we heard of Race to the Top? It's Common Core. And there's not a whole lot of difference in Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind until you get further in with the data mining and the indoctrination of it. As far as your standardized testing and the commonalities of it, it's all the same. The only difference in the Common Core or Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind is the data mining and the indoctrination, and we'll get a little further into that in a few minutes. It says Race to the Top was started in 2009 as a stimulus package to essentially fund the federal takeover of education. Sometimes you will hear it called porculus. The term is not a form of endearment. It is the grant created the consortium. Now, adaptive technology. This is when the computer programming that studies student responses and changes directions based on student responses. They're putting your child in front of a computer. and they're doing these assessment tests on it. They're going to base this test on what your child did on the last test. So instead of saying, okay, your child did 90% better on this test, if your child did bad on this test, they're going to dumb down the test to make it look like your child's doing better so they can get that grant money. So really the children aren't learning anything. In the old days of programming, this might be an if-then loop. However, under today's technology, this can be based on facial expressions and other physical indicators, as well as simple computer responses. Laptop camera can be used to study the reaction of those who are responding with certain facial muscle movements as indicators, as well as simple responses, and we'll get more into that in just a minute. West Ed is the consulting firm actually implementing the Common Core through SBAC. The primary writer, again, is Linda Darling Hammond. And Achieve, they want to say that William Ayer is a lot of the writer for that, but don't let them fool you. Pearson is the primary pusher for Park. Have any of you noticed they're not letting your children bring home their school books?
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a minute too. And if you'll dig a little bit, you'll find out that Pearson is the one that's writing all those books that they're not letting them bring home. It says there is also an agreement between West Ed and Achieve so that the content remains consistent across both consortiums. The American Institute of Research, they are the firm involved in developing the adaptive technology and putting together the longitudinal database of the Common Core. I've got some links here. You guys can go home and look up, and it'll tell you some more information about it. Heavily involved in two-spiritedness education and gay and lesbian rights education, and views teen suicide as something based in gender oppression. Common Core. The funding, race to the top. The money ends in 2014. From that point forward, consortium members will be expected to financially support these intergovernmental agencies. That means that this state's funding, unless we go fully implementation of Common Core by the end of 2014, they'll not get any more federal money, period. Now, in my opinion, the Federal Department of Education needs to be done away with. We need to bring it back to the local levels. We need to be doing the school board meetings. That way we have a say-so in what our children is learning, what is being taught to our children. The Council of Chief State School Officers, while they claim to be a group of state officials at the state level, this is really just another group of businesses who lobby under the guise of a professional group. The list of partners are primarily testing companies who are baying for state contracts. Here are their members, and it gives you a website that you can go to, the CCSSO.org. And then there's career and college and career ready standards. Content standards for K through 12 that build toward college and career-ready graduation requirements as defined in this document. By the time the high school graduation, a state's college and career-ready standards must be either 1, standards that are common to a significant number of states, or 2, standards that are approved by the state network of institutions of higher education, which must certify that students who meet these standards will not need remedial coursework for the post-secondary level. Essentially, this is the technical term for the Common Core curriculum. And don't let anyone fool you when they say, oh, Common Core is just a set of standards. It's a set of standards, but it's also a set of curriculum standards. That's where they try to get everybody. It has nothing to do with curriculum. Well, yes, it does. If you could see their school books they're bringing home, it specifically states on those school books, Common Core. They're proud of their work. That's why the school books aren't getting brought home. Excellence. According to the primary author of Race to the Top grant and SBAC, excellence means privileged. Those who excel do so because they have privilege, not because they worked for it, not because they earned it, not because they deserve it. They have it because they are privileged. This was clarified at a lecture at the United Nations UNESCO. Does anyone in here know what UNESCO means? What do you think it means?
The initials of it, United Nations,
European.
It's the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization.
there you go. It's a mouthful to remember.
It is a specialized agency of the United Nations, and that's where the Common Core comes from. It's a global education. It's a socialized education. Now, I agree that our children need to be learning at a higher level. I agree that we don't need to go into college and have to take remedial courses. When I went into college, I won't say how many years ago that was, but when I went in, I had to take a remedial English and math because I was not college ready due to the education that I had gotten in school. So I agree that we need to step up our education some. That's a given. But this is America. This is Mississippi. We need to be the ones that's over our children, not the United Nations, not Washington, D.C., not China, not Florida.
Well, I remember when the schools were run and owned by the community, the state.
Right. And that's the way we need it brought back. I didn't give this printout. My computer has crashed up 10 times on me this week. We have found 312 infections in it that we can't get rid of, and I think a lot of it has to do with this right here, because I'm digging in and finding information out that they don't want us to know. If anyone wants to read this, it's a little 2-page handout. You're welcome to. This back page really caught my attention. It's one of the main reasons that I had actually saved this onto my hard drive. We, the people of the United Nations, are determined to save succeeding generations from the score of war. In proclaiming the year 2000 as the International Year for the Culture of Peace, the United Nations General Assembly defined a culture of peace as the values, attitudes, and behaviors that reflect and inspire social interaction and sharing based on principles of freedom, justice, and democracy for all human rights, tolerance, and solidarity. I don't know about you, but I don't care about having a democracy, and I don't care about having solidarity with any other nation. My child is not common. Your child is not common. And when you dig into it, there's just a whole lot of crap.
Have you followed it all the way into Agenda 21?
Yes, ma'am, I have. I wasn't going to bring Agenda 21 into the conversation because that kind of makes people go, ooh, conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but it's conspiracy truth, and I have all the proof to put back it up.
I do too. I don't know how many of you, I did a town hall meeting a couple of months ago in Corinth, and if you're on my friends list, you've seen the video, and my YouTube video kind of went viral, so you may have seen it too. But I really want to kind of hit on what I talked about at that town hall meeting, because I went in there with the most important information that I thought would make the senators and the mayor and everybody go, I kind of think it did. A couple of weeks after that, Senator Hill, which she wasn't at that